Namaste. Welcome to your yoga practice, your sadhana, your spiritual journey. Today we're going to be continuing our work on the deep core line, but recognizing how it relates to the other lines and how we can how we can work the core line in a way that brings balance to all the other lines of the body that we've already explored in this series. A few things that we'll consider during our practice is one, what is our relationship to gravity? What is your relationship to gravity? And the way that we'll look at that is through the spine and how the deep core line, how it supports the spine. And often as we age, we'll see, especially in the elderly, how the body tends to kind of collapse. And I'm starting to see this a lot more in children because of their playing on the cell phones and video games, even just like adopting the sedentary position, that there's a lack of integrity through the core line that eventually will catch up with them. And it's going to be interesting to see in a couple of years how this generation will develop over time and what types of physical problems we're going to be seeing in 30, 40 years from now. So another consideration that we're going to be looking at is or asking ourselves the question or investigating, what is our true balance? Where is balance really? Often we think of balance as being the center between two extremes, but when we study the body, we start to realize that the extremes tend to move around. So balance itself also moves around, and depending on our bodies, we're going to notice that balance is not necessarily right in the middle of 2 points. It might be over to one side more than the other. How we'll be exploring this is through the actions of inner and outer spiral. Or more precisely, we're going to be working a lot with pelvic tilting. And for some of us need, in order to find balance in our bodies or to find that length of the spine, we need more of kind of the sticking the butt out action, or what's called anterior pelvic tilt, which is encouraged by inner spiral. And some of us are the other way. We need more of the posterior pelvic tilt, or kind of like the tail tucked under action, which is encouraged by what we call in Anusara yoga, the outer spiral. So, and some of us need right in the middle, like we need equal amount of inner spiral as we do outer spiral. So balance is going to be very subjective. It's going to be very individual, and it won't necessarily be the middle between 2 points. So that's going to be something that we want to investigate. And keeping all of that in mind, what our true intention is to find what we call optimal alignment. So where your balance is today might be very different than where your balance is going to be tomorrow. And this is what we call optimal alignment. Optimal alignment is the alignment that is ideal for you at any given moment, where the body is going to function at its best. And that might require more engagement in some days, or more effort. And in other days, it might require that you release a little bit more. So we're going to see kind of, and again, this is really an exploration. I can't tell you, okay, you need more of this, because I don't see you. But it's really an exploration, and it's something that, for me, in my practice, I've noticed just to kind of feel, like, okay, do I need more of this? Do I need more of that? Am I right in the middle? And relating the movement, the action, to how I feel, and not only how I feel in the moment, but also studying this over time, because what felt good for me in one moment might not have been what was best for me in that moment. And yet, I can't go back and change it, but I can learn. And this is what the yoga practice kind of gives us as a gift, is this gift of self-study and we get to study ourselves over a long period of time as we practice. This is why the yoga practice is something that we commit to, and it's not something that we just do once in a while, but we have to do it over a long period of time so that we can really compare one practice to the other and gather information. It's not to say that, oh, I was not good then or whatever, but it's to really gather information. So take a comfortable seat and let's gather information. So sit in a cross-legged position. Make sure you're high enough. You might need a few blankets. I'm sitting up on a blanket. You might need a block. Or a cushion. So get what you need to be really high up. You know, don't cheat yourself out of a great exploration. And then start to tilt the pelvis back and forth. And so you start to move your pelvis. Now, if you're very tight in your hips, that movement might be very micro movements. So don't worry about that. Just move as much as you can without hurting your spine or your knees. And again, sitting up higher is often better for hip mobility. So you might even want to sit in a chair just for this exploration. So just tilting, again, tucking the tailbone under, moving the sitting bones back. And in Anusara yoga, we know that what we want first is to create that, what we call the anterior pelvic tilt. So we want the inner thighs to move down, so it's kind of an internal rotation of your thighs. So the inner thighs move down, the hip creases deepen, the inner groins deepen, they kind of go in towards the back of the body. And in the back, if I'm looking from the back, the sitting bones are widening, the lower back is curving, it's arching in. Okay, so that is indicative of what we would kind of like a preparation for inner spiral. And then the outer spiral is where the thighs kind of turn out. And as you sit here, you can start to feel like how your knees start to turn out towards the floor. The top of your thighs turn out towards the floor. Your buttocks hug underneath you, and the tailbone kind of looks forward. Your back rounds. And that's more indicative of the outer spiral movement. Okay, so now we're just kind of doing them in isolation. But in the practice, we really want to find the balance between both of those. And how we're going to know where the balance is where the spine is at its longest. So if you bring your pubic bone down, inner thighs turn in, sitting bones widen, your back really arching, don't hurt yourself. You'll notice that the spine tends to kind of like be pulled down. It's like my chest is pulling out, my belly's pulling out, and I'm crunching in my lower back. My lower back got shorter. And then if we go the other way, again, more of the outer spiral action, we curl the tailbone under, buttocks under, round your back. And we see again, I shrunk, you know? So what we want to start with is moving the inner thighs back and then draw the lower belly in only as much. So you start drawing from the lower belly, you draw into the belly button, up into the belly button. And you're realigning the spine. So as I'm doing this, my spine is starting to straighten in my lower back. And as I'm doing that, I'm starting to reach my maximum peak, my maximum height. If I continue, then I start to shrink, okay? So you want to do that as much as you need. So for some of you, you might already be there. You might not need a lot of lift of your lower belly. You might not need that much moving down of your buttocks. You might not need so much outer spiral. For others, if you're more hypermobile in your hips and in your lower back, then you might need a lot more. So I know for myself, my lower back is more arched. So I want to kind of move it more into the rounding action, more towards that. And that's where I'm going to find where my back is actually straight and where my spine is the longest. So find where your spine is the longest. And then staying in that position, bring your hands together in front of your heart, close your eyes. And notice the relationship between gravity, right? Like how you're lifting and lengthening away from gravity. So you're balancing that action, which is kind of bringing you into an optimal alignment. And then you're also balancing effort and ease. And it might not necessarily be 50-50. It might require, you might have to exert a little bit more effort to find that length in your spine. And for some of us, we might have to kind of back off a little bit and be more easeful to find that length. And every day might change. But finding that balance that is right for you, that optimal alignment that is right for you, will bring you to a space where your body is going to function most efficiently, most effectively. The prana will circulate more fluidly, with greater ease. Even if you're exerting more effort, the prana will circulate with greater ease. And that moves the body into a healing state, a resting state. Again, even in the presence of effort. Let's open the practice with 3 sounds of Om, honoring the divine within. Take a deep breath in. Release your hands, open your eyes, and please come up to standing. Take your block. Take a block between your feet, lengthwise, so you have the long edges along the inner feet. And a little bend in your knees, bring your hands to your hips, and do a few pelvic tilts. Again, depending on the position, we're going to be doing a lot of pelvic tilts this week. So depending on the position of your body, what posture, what asana we're in, the movement of the pelvis will be either very fluid, very like you'll be able to move a lot, or it will be more limited. But regardless, every time we do these pelvic tilts, we're going to be accessing different angles in the hips, which actually helps to free the hips. So if you're a little bit tighter in the hips, this practice is going to be amazing for you. If you're very open in the hips, this practice is going to teach you how to create a little bit of more of a container. So now move the inner thighs back. Keep holding your block. Move the inner thighs back. Feel the tone of your legs like we practiced last practice. Widen the sitting bones. Breathe into your back, even though it's arching. And then keep that as you straighten your legs. Don't lock the knees. So you're kind of creating what we call the duck butt. And then from here, you're going to notice the height of your spine, and you might already be at your highest peak. Okay, so don't compare your body to mine. Think more about the actions. So you might already be at your highest, like your tallest point. So if you're at your tallest point in your spine, then stay there. But if you're not, then start to lift your lower belly in, so that you kind of tone the buttocks and your tailbone starts to move down. You lift in, and I like using my hand because I push into my belly and I really activate those muscles, and I lift up, kind of like a J shape. J for Jeannine. And I find my highest peak. And then I bring my ribs in like we practiced last practice to align my ribs with my pelvis. And I find that highest peak. I find the peak where I'm the tallest. And now you're just going on your own feeling. And it's always great to get kind of a second opinion, an outside view. So feel this, but also, you know, when you go see your teacher, just ask them, you know, ask them like, okay, am I higher here? Am I higher here? And just so that you have, because sometimes our brain kind of fools us. So I think I'm at my highest peak here. And then inhale, lift your arms up without moving the ribs in. Keep the ribs, without moving the ribs out, draw them in. Interlace your fingers, point your index fingers up and lean to your right. So side bending. Press down into your feet and lengthen through the sides of your body, through the crown of your head, right? So get through the center of your body. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Inhale, come up. Exhale to the other side. Again, there tends to be a collapse, so squeeze the block, draw up, and negotiate in your pelvis, inner thighs back, and then lift your lower belly to find that maximum height of your body in the side bend. Inhale, come back up. Interlace your fingers behind the back, shoulders back. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, fold forward. And here we let the hips be free. We move the inner thighs back. Feel the widening of your sitting bones. And if you're tighter in your hips, bend your knees so that you can really feel the opening of your sitting bones and your thigh bones moving deeper into their sockets. Find your breath. Inhale, come up, drawing the lower belly in and up. And exhale, Tadasana, finding that tallest point. So Tadasana is not just about standing, it's really about finding that peak. Good. Now we can move the block to the side and take lunge with your right foot forward, left foot back. And you can have your right hand on the outside or bring it on the inside, depending on the shape of your body. But keep your foot in line with your hip, and then again, stick your butt out, draw the butt in, stick it out, draw it in, stick it out, draw it in, and really find the range of movement. So don't just do it mechanically, but really feel what's happening in the hips. I like to call this action flossing, because we're moving the pelvis and we're shifting the relationship between the thigh bones and the pelvis. And so we're kind of flossing between the thigh bone and the pelvis, clearing the guck, clearing all the tension. And then here, widen your sitting bones. So stick the butt out, lift your back knee for a moment, and then bring your chin towards your chest so the crown of your head points straight ahead. It's on the same line as your spine. And then draw from your right buttock, draw the right buttock in with your belly. And lengthen the spine to get that long line through your spine. Now bring your knee down, take your left hand out to the left, buttocks out once again, bend your back knee, hold the inside of your foot, bring your butt to your heel. So stick your butt out so much, inner thighs back, so your butt goes to your heel, and then keeping your heel to your buttock, lift your lower belly, find the length of your spine as you deepen into your lunge. Roll your shoulders back, twist, and then you can transfer your hand to the outside of your foot, provided that you feel comfortable in your knee. The heel stays to the buttock. Draw the ribs in and turn the left side of your body up towards the right. Again, think of length. So if you're collapsed here, that's not length. Find length and then come out. Change sides, right foot back. Bend your front knee, bring your left hand to the inside or outside of your foot. And then keeping some wiggle room in the hips, buttocks out, stick the butt out, draw it back in, stick it out, draw it in. Notice how the movement might be a little bit more limited here. You might even feel like you're not really doing anything. But again, work with the subtle sensations in the hip. Breathe. And then toning the muscles of your legs, turn the inner thighs back, deepen the hip creases, widen your sitting bones, widen even the right buttock over to the right. Good. And then lift your back knee. And then as if your belly was attached to your left buttock. Belly attached to the left buttock. When you draw the belly in, you want that left buttock to come in as well. Okay, so I'll just show you a little bit closer. So here. So when you draw the belly in, you want the left buttock to draw in as well. So I'm toning the buttock and it's hugging in. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but if not, ask your Anusara teacher about outer spiral, and you'll be able to experience that a little bit more. Good. Now, remembering that action, move the buttocks back out, bring your knee down, right hand to the right, and then bend your back knee, grab hold of the inside of your foot near the big toe. Move the inner thighs back so much that your butt moves towards your heel, and the heel goes just to the outside of your buttock. The outer, just the outside of your sitting bone. Now, what we did before. So roll your shoulders back, and then from your lower belly, draw the left buttock underneath and lunge forward with the foot still connected to your butt. So as I'm pulling the belly in, that left buttock rolls in, comes underneath me. So don't get confused with the inner spiral, outer spiral. So when we draw the buttocks in, that's actually outer spiral. So and the spiral happens because the thigh is moving out. So that's why we call it outer spiral. So if you bring your butt out, you bring your left buttock underneath more, you'll see how your knee kind of turns out, right? So the left buttock under, knee turns out, and twist. Find the length of your spine by doing more, less or more inner, outer spiral. And then come back to center and step forward, Uttanasana. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. So, inner spiral, the inner thighs, so the thighs internally rotate. And when I do that, the butt sticks out. Okay, but that's not outer spiral. Just because my butt sticks out, it's not outer spiral. The inner spiral, thighs turn in, and because the thighs turn in, the buttocks widen. Outer spiral, the thighs turn out. The butt comes in, but the thighs turn out. That's why it's called outer spiral. Okay? Now, of course, we don't want to just turn in and collapse the feet and then turn out and the feet go out and the back collapses. So we want to maintain our strength in our legs, create inner spiral from that strength, and then keeping the inner spiral, we draw the lower belly in so that we have the impression that the thighs want to turn out. The pelvis balances itself out, and then we lengthen, okay? So my inner thighs are still turning in, but my buttocks are kind of meeting them. And for some people need more inner thighs, need to do that more. Some people need to tone their buttocks a little bit more because they're out here, right? We all know people out here. We all know people who are here. If you're here, right, then it probably means you need more inner spiral. You need to encourage that action to find your balance. If you're here with the butt out, then you probably need more outer spiral to create balance. Okay? So let's stand on one foot. So let's go with the right foot, lift your right knee. And then stick the butt out, draw the butt in, stick the butt out, draw the butt in. And it won't necessarily be the action that's the easiest to do. It might be the action that's harder to do, that you need more of. And every pose depending on the pose, you might need more inner spiral, more outer spiral. Okay. So stick the butt out, bring your left hand to your hip, open up the leg. Now you can stay here, keep sticking the butt out, hold your big toe if you're going to phase 2, and then phase 3, kick the leg out. I'm still turning my thigh in, still sticking my butt out, I'm even like folding forward. But now I want to realign because I don't want to stay forward bend. I want to lengthen my spine. So from your lower belly, draw the lower belly in and up. The toes start to point up. And I'm finding my tallest peak. Where am I the tallest? But I find my height from my pelvis. Reach your left arm out. And then release. Come back to center. Okay? So it's not about stretching the neck, trying to get tall. It's about realigning the pelvis and then growing through your spine. Left knee up, hold your knee. Buttocks out, buttocks in, buttocks out, buttocks in. Play with it a little bit. And then stick the butt out. So keep the legs toned, turn your inner thighs out. Right hand to your hip, open up the hip. So my inner thigh is moving underneath towards the back of my thighs. And then stay here or hold the big toe, phase 2, phase 3, straighten out your leg, spread your toes. And now I'm still in the duck butt. So for you, that might be where you're the tallest. Stay there if you are. If not, you start to draw the lower belly in. That left buttock rolls underneath. And I start to grow taller, taller, taller through my spine from the center of my pelvis. Open the right arm, take a few breaths. Enjoy the balance. And then bend your knee, bring it back to the center and release. Take your feet wide now. Turn your toes to the right for a Parshavakkonasana, Uttita Parshavakkonasana. Feet on the same line. Make sure your left toes the left foot is parallel to the outside edge of your mat. That means you might have to turn it in a little bit, and that's going to help with the inner spiral. Bend your right knee, bring your forearm to your thigh. Again, pelvic tilting. Just explore the movement of the hips. Especially now you're at home, nobody's watching, I can't see you. So just explore. So then bring your buttocks back, and then again, right, the belly is attached more to the front leg buttock. So in these asymmetric poses. So create a line from your belly to your right buttock, and as you draw your belly in towards your spine, feel how that right buttock can come underneath, and then encourage it by toning your buttocks to realign your spine. Imagine that your back was against the wall. So if you're sticking your butt out, then your back is not touching the wall, it's just your butt. So I want to draw my belly in so that the right buttock comes underneath, right? And that left hip crease stays soft. It's not pushing forward. I'm not trying to stretch this left hip so much. Now, stay here or bring your fingertips to the floor on the inside. We usually work on the outside, today on the inside. Press your arm against your leg so that you get that outer spiral on the right leg, so the right thigh moves out. Keeping that, you can stay here and stretch your left arm alongside your ear, or go for the clasp. Bring your right arm, shoulder underneath, and wrap your arm behind. Keep pressing your shoulder into your leg. Right buttock draws under, and then find the length of your spine. I'm holding my left wrist here. Right hand holds the left wrist. And I lengthen my spine. Press into your feet. And then bring your hand to the floor and come up to standing. Second side. Bend your left knee, bring your forearm and play in the hips, exploring movement. Again, flossing, clearing out the guck in the hips. We hold a lot of baggage in our pelvis. Whether that baggage could be sexual trauma, right? A lot of sexual trauma. Whether we've experienced sexual trauma, or it could just be the sexual trauma of like the taboo about sex in our culture, in past cultures at least. Could be reproductive issues, digestive issues, a lot of congestion. So buttocks back now, tone your inner thighs, move them back, deepen your hip creases, and then from your lower belly, you start to realign the pelvis. So you draw the left buttock underneath as you find the length of your spine. And now my spine is right in line with my left leg. I'm not folding forward, I'm not folding back. Stay here, bring your fingertips to the floor. Again, negotiate in the pelvis. You might need to do buttocks back and then again find the alignment. Or phase 3, go and hold your right wrist. If you're not holding the wrist, you can just take your right arm alongside your ear. Keep looking for that length from the pelvis. Do you need more buttocks back to get the length of your spine? More buttocks in to find the length and stability? And then inhale to come up. And exhale, release. So now bring your mat to the wall for L pose. So with your mat at the wall, you want the short edge close to the wall. Sit against the wall. So your pelvis is right up against the wall. And notice where your heels are. That's where you're going to place your hands. So you're going to come onto all fours with the hands, the palms, right where the heels were. Spread your fingers and just make sure that your hands are still shoulder distance apart. So you don't want it right on your footprints, but shoulder distance apart, the same line. You'll feel like you're really close to the wall, that's fine. Lengthen the sides of your body and soften the back, especially between your shoulder blades. Now in L pose, we're going to play with this action of buttocks out, buttocks in, buttocks out. So you can just do a few pelvic tilts here, because this is what you want to find when you're up in the air. And when we walk up, we're going to walk up the feet behind the buttocks. So as you just play in the pelvis, I'll show you, and then you can follow. When we go up into the pose, we want more buttocks out. So I'm going to move my buttocks out and lift my hips. I'm still sticking my butt out. And then I walk my feet right up behind my hips. And then keeping the knees bent, I play with buttocks out, buttocks in, buttocks out, buttocks in. Buttocks out, I keep my buttocks out, and then press my feet into the wall. Keep the buttocks out, look towards your hands just slightly so you can see the base of your thumbs. And then from there, if your legs are straight and your arms are strong, then you draw buttocks in. So you you squeeze the buttocks, move your sitting bones towards the wall, move your tailbone towards the wall. And then come back down. Relax in child's pose. So try that out. So just again to instruct, from all fours, you walk your feet up right behind your hips. And then with the knees bent, you do a few buttocks out. So inner spiral, outer spiral, inner spiral, outer spiral. So buttocks out, buttocks squeeze. Okay? And then you stick the butt out. So inner spiral, inner thighs move back to straighten your legs. And then you tone the lower belly. If the legs are straight, you tone the lower belly and you get really strong in your core. And as you tone your lower belly and pull it towards your spine, your buttocks start to squeeze in and the tailbone moves towards the wall, towards your heels. Now, you want to keep that as you push down into the floor and into the wall. Okay? All right. And then rest in child's pose. And then when you're ready, come back to the center of the room. Come to sitting, and you might want to sit on a blanket. Sit in a cross-legged position. And let's do baby cradle. So again, make sure your pelvis you're right up on your sitting bones. So you might have to move your inner thighs underneath. Again, creating that manual inner spiral, and at the same time widening your buttocks away from the tailbone. Take your right foot and knee. So I'm not mirroring, so make sure your right foot is in your hand, And then instead of rocking, so sometimes we do this, okay, so instead of doing that, just bring it to the center, wrap your arms around your foot and your knee as much as you can, keeping the flare of your toes and the support in your knee. So you want to make sure that you're not twisting your knee. Lengthen your spine. And then here, oh my goodness, will feel impossible, but buttocks out, buttocks in. Try to move the pelvis. Yeah. You might feel like you're imagining it. Do your best. For those of you who experience knee pain in general or back pain, you might start to notice that the more you force your pelvis to move, the more you start to feel it in your knees or your lower back. So that's a good sign that you're going too far. But it's also proof that when your hips are stuck, the knees and the lower back have to work more. So we don't want that. We want the hips to be nice and open. Good. And then release. And when the hips are open, then the knees don't have to work for the hips. The back doesn't have to work for the hips. Grab your foot, and then if you can, wrap your arms as much as you can around your leg. Flex your toes, flare your foot, flex your foot, flare your toes, and then buttocks in, buttocks out. It's very small. Good, and then release. All right, so now sundial, Surya Yantrasana. So sundial is a more challenging pose. We'll go through it in steps. And don't worry if you don't get into the full pose, that's not the intention. The intention is to really find the mobility of your hips and to follow the mobility of the hips into the extension of the leg. So for sundial, we're gonna grab hold of the right foot. So really listen to the instructions of right and left and just kind of like find your right and left hands and right and left legs and really solidify that understanding of your right and left in your mind. And that will make the instructions a lot easier to follow. So holding your right foot, inhale, lengthen your spine. Lengthen the sides of your body, get breath into the waist. Again, find that verticality of your spine, find that length of your spine. And then take your right arm underneath your leg. And you want to use your right hand to bring your leg up over your shoulder as much as you can. Now keep it there, keep your right hand there. Your left hand, turn your thumb down, hold the outside of your foot. Left hand, thumb down, outside, hold the outside of your foot. Holding that, press your leg into your arm and your right hand, turn your fingers out on the floor. Now we go buttocks out, buttocks in, buttocks out, buttocks in. So now move your inner thighs back to stick the buttocks out. And keep doing that and keep going all the way into that right leg. So you keep turning the inner thigh back, inner thigh back. Stick that right buttock out until the leg straightens as much as you can get it. Now, once it's at its peak, once it goes as far as it can go, then you start to bring the belly in and that right buttock underneath for the outer spiral. And you start turning out. The leg turns out, the belly turns up, the chest turns up to look underneath your left arm. Look underneath your left arm. And then find the length of your spine from your pelvis. Press down from your pelvis into your legs, and from your pelvis lengthen out through the crown of your head. Deepen your breath. And then slowly curl back in and release. Second side. Hold your left foot. So you see a lot of these poses come from finding the range of motion, range of movement of the inner spiral all the way to the end, and then balancing that out with the outer spiral. So the pose is created by a balance, a proper balance for you between inner and outer spiral. So take your left arm underneath your leg and place the leg over your shoulder. Keep holding your leg, and now with your right hand, turn your thumb down, right hand, thumb down, hold the outside of your foot. Holding the outside of your foot, press your leg into your shoulder, keep it there so that you can place your left hand down onto the floor, fingers out. Now, tone the muscles of your legs. Find your breath, right in the rib cage, lower ribs and belly. And now we start buttocks out. Buttocks out. Keep the buttocks moving out. I'm folding forward. I'm sticking my butt out. And as I'm sticking my butt out, I'm turning my toes in. My toes turn forward. My knee turns towards me. My buttock turns out. Inner thighs back, inner thighs back. And then once the leg is straight, or as straight as it will go, then I start coming back. Keep the leg straight. Keep that. And draw the belly in. Draw the left buttock underneath. So I start turning my leg out now, and it turns out and presses out through the foot. I look up underneath my right arm, and lengthen the spine. Find that long line from the pelvis through the crown of your head, balancing the inner rotation of the legs and the outer rotation, the inner spiral and the outer spiral. The sticking the butt out and the drawing the butt in. And from your pelvis, press out through your legs and find that magical length through your spine, where your body is just functioning as well as it can in this given moment. And then curl back in, release the pose. And just observe sensations. And then let's lie on the belly. Bend your knees. Just gonna move my mic. Bend your knees. Hands beside your lower ribs for cobra. Lengthen the sides of your body. Draw your shoulders back, away from the floor. Press your knees into the floor so that you feel the inner thighs lift. Sitting bones lift up and widen towards the ceiling. And you have that sticking the butt out action. Now keep that as you bring the top of your feet down. Keep that as you bring the top of the feet down. Now we want, from the lower belly, start to lengthen the lower back so that your tailbone moves away from your back. And we start to iron out the back. So we're bringing the buttocks back in. Tone the buttocks just slightly. Keep pressing your knees down. Hip creases are soft and deep. And then lengthen your spine. Inhale, come up into cobra. As you exhale, press down through your knees, down through your tailbone, and find that long line up through the spine. If you feel crunching in your back or collapsing of the shoulders, upper back, that's because you're losing one of the actions in the pelvis. So just reset. Press the knees down, buttocks out, and then draw the lower belly in, buttocks towards your heels. And then press back into a wide angle child's pose so we get a long lower back. And breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale all the way out. And then come back to sit on your blanket. Sit in a comfortable cross-legged position. Play a bit with the pelvic tilts. like we did at the beginning, just noticing the difference now in the pelvis. Might feel a bit more mobile, like there's a bit more freedom in the hips. And then sticking the butt out, draw the lower belly in so that you start to lean back a little bit into the lower back and find that vertical line through the spine. Close your eyes and just take a moment here to meditate within this space of your optimal alignment. A space of balance that you might feel shift. It's not a fixed point. With each breath, our pelvis is shifting. So we're constantly searching for that balance, just as we do in our everyday life, searching for balance. But if we understand that balance moves, then we're not so anxious about finding that one point. We know that it moves and we move with it. Feel your center. Feel the alignment, that line, that pillar that goes from the crown of the head down through the center of the body, center of the pelvic floor, and as you exhale, it rises back up through the midline of the body. We're aligning our energetic body as much as we're aligning our physical body. Please feel free to stay in meditation or even rest in Shavasana for another few moments. And I'll leave you now with one sound of Om. Breathe and be well. Namaste.